Today, I'm gonna teach you how to make ratatouille. Ratatouille is a classic French dish made with a variety of wonderful summer vegetables. It shows up in different cultures around the world. In Spain, there's a dish called pisto manchego, which is essentially the same thing. And the reason that this type of dish shows up in different cultures is because it's essentially a way to use the summer's bounty, like when your vegetable garden is exploding and you don't know what to do with so much eggplant, zucchini, peppers that you have, that you can turn it into one dish. The other really neat thing about ratatouille is that it's a great way to learn some fundamental cooking skills. First, how to use knife skills, so how to cut different shapes and sizes of vegetables. Second, how to sear those different vegetables. And third, how to use your oven and time to develop flavor. This dish will bake in the oven for quite a while, but it's well worth the time because you can then freeze it afterwards, and it's like trapping the bounty of summer in one dish. You can make ratatouille or a version of ratatouille with lots of different types of vegetables. I have the classic ones here, so pepper, eggplant, onion, some squash, zucchini, and garlic. How to cut these really depends on their shape, right? Like, there's no world where I cut the three of these things the same way. So we have to cut these each a little differently. But first, it's time to preheat the oven. I'm gonna cook the ratatouille at 350 degrees. Now, let's start with the pepper. I think the easiest way to cut a pepper is just around the core and just go straight down. I'm just going to take my knife, kind of follow along the membrane, and then trim the top part off. And the same thing on these pieces. Starting here, having your knife move along that membrane. Now I'm gonna cut the pepper into chunks. So I'm just going to take the pepper and cut it into chunks like that. I'm cutting them all to be about the same size so that they cook at the same rate. Next up, we'll cut the onion. So to cut an onion, I cut off the top and the bottom, and then I like to just cut it in half. I think that's the easiest way, and then peel it. So I'm just gonna make a couple of cuts this way, and then 2 cuts horizontally. We're rough, large chopping this, so it's pretty straightforward. For the eggplant, I just cut off the top, and then I'm gonna cut it into planks. So things that are shaped like this, in order to get them into large chunks, I cut them into planks, which basically means long strips the length of the eggplant, and then we're gonna come back and cube it. This is what is meant by planking. So it's like a flat, straight, this side looks straighter. It's not a straight vegetable, so it's not always perfect, but this is what is meant by planking. It's like a flat, straight piece. These are all about the same thickness. I'm going to cut into strips, like that, and then chunks. Moving on to squash, yellow squash. Same as the eggplant, cut off the top. I'm gonna cut right here, cut that in half, the neck, And then the rest of it, I'm gonna cut like this, because it's wider. Again, we're like trying to get approximately the same size pieces as before. Zucchini is kind of a nicer, even shape than the squash, so it's even easier. Just gonna cut the top off, cut it lengthwise. And next, we need 6 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna pop out the cloves. 6 cloves. And then the easiest way to peel it is to put the clove down and hit it with your knife just until the peel cracks. Makes it a little easier and faster to peel. And then to slice it, I'm gonna cut off this little end and discard it, and then slice it. Okay, let's do that with 5 more cloves. The next step is building the flavor base for the ratatouille. And to do that, I have the pot that I'm going to cook the ratatouille in the oven. I have a can of whole peeled tomatoes. I'm gonna pour the whole can into the pot. Now I need to mush up these tomatoes, and the best way to do that is with your hands. I've tried a spoon or a spatula before, and it does not work the same. I'm picking them up and smushing them like this. And creates this really nice sweetness to the dish. Now, the rest of the ingredients for building flavor, I have 3 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of salt, and the magic, non-traditional, secret flavor building ingredient, 1.5 teaspoons of chopped up anchovies or anchovy paste. The truth is, I have add anchovies to a lot of things. Roasted vegetables, pasta, chicken, and never once have I been sorry that I added them. Add that. Searing. Searing is about browning, and browning is building flavor. So when you caramelize the outside of vegetables or meat or anything, it builds richer flavor in the dish that you're cooking. These vegetables, I don't want to cook them all the way through. I literally just want to sear them in a pretty hot pan so they start to develop some color. They're gonna cook through in the oven later, but we'll have locked in the flavor in the searing step. I've got olive oil. Let's get the pan hot. It's really tempting to want to speed up this process and just dump all of the squash or something in the pot all at once. The problem with that is if you overcrowd your pan and fill it in with the vegetables, instead of browning, they'll just sweat, meaning that they will release all of their juices and simmer among each other, and it'll be impossible to brown them. Okay, hot pan. Adding the onion. I'm gonna take just a nice handful. I can put pretty much the onion in one batch. I'm going to toss this in the pot. Yeah, perfect. That happened really fast. peppers are done. The last vegetable, garlic. Last but not least. I'm gonna add just a little bit more oil. It doesn't need very much. And I put it in that corner because for me, the best way to brown garlic is to create a little pool of oil. And I toss it right in there. Garlic browns really fast, and it'll go from nice golden brown to burnt pretty quickly. So this is something you definitely want to keep an eye on. I'm not worried about overcrowding in this corner or over mixing, because I don't know what it is about garlic, but it browns always. See, it's browning. Next, I'm gonna add a little bit more flavor with some herbs and then stir it up and put it in the oven. So I've got 2 sprigs of rosemary and a couple sprigs of thyme. And I'm gonna stir this all up. I wanna make sure it all gets well combined together. It's funny looking at this dish. This is exactly what this should look like. This is the traditional ratatouille. You know, the fancy version, I guess, is slices all lined up and fanned out. But this is the classic. This is the real thing. It's time to put it in the oven. Okay. The ratatouille has been cooking for about 2 hours, and it's time to take the lid off. So good. So it's been in the oven, kind of cooking and melding all of the flavors of the vegetables together. They're starting to turn softer and softer, and they're beginning to look more and more like one another. I can still see kind of the separation of the different vegetables, but it's on its way. The next step is to put it in the oven for an hour with the lid off. It'll start to brown around the edges and the top and get really, really delicious. 1 more hour to go. The ratatouille should be done. Let's take a look. Oh my gosh. It looks and smells amazing. See, it's browned around the edges and on top. And if I stir it, all of the vegetables are super tender. I mean, look at this, look at that. You can barely tell the different shapes apart, and they're like squishable. That is perfect. It's all kind of melded in to one delicious ratatouille. I love serving ratatouille with a loaf of crusty bread, with fish, with meat, roasted vegetables, a fried egg. I think it goes with just about everything. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness. I know I went through, oh my goodness, that is so good. The like vinegar, and I can tell the subtleness of the anchovy that's just creating this umami. It is so good. I know I listed off all the different things that you could pair ratatouille with, but really, I think that the best way to eat it is by itself in giant spoonfuls. I hope that you take this recipe for ratatouille and make batches of it so that you can enjoy summer any time of the year.